ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X research and professional physicist. And today I'd like to bring to you another one of my articles. This one's entitled Planet X Creating Sinkholes and Effects on the Human Body. Now, in Article 563 entitled Planet X Creating Sinkholes All Over the World, I show that sinkholes are created by Planet X objects when the gravitational interaction between the objects and the Earth is repulsive. In Article 564, entitled Sinkholes Appear When Gravity is Repulsive, I show that the gravitational interaction is repulsive when the objects are low in gravitational energy, and that sinkholes occur when the objects are new arrivals at Earth. Hence, the appearance of sinkholes signals the arrival of new objects close to the Earth. And here you see a sinkhole. And it's perfectly circular, indicating that it was produced as a result of the gravitational interaction between the Earth and a spherical object, a Planet X object or Planet X system stellar core, the dead core of a once living planet above this point. Part of the surface can be seen lying in the sinkhole. The piece of paved road is in a large piece. You can see a large piece, and thus appears to have broken and fallen in, so it was not affected by the repulsive gravitational interaction like the ground below it. The above image shows that the paved road was not affected in the same way as the ground below it. It shows that the acting force is not a pushing force from above, it is a force which acts on the individual particles of matter in the ground, not those in the road surface. It can also be understood in terms of gravitational potential. The object's gravitational potential was too low for its altitude, so the surface moved to accommodate it. And this is illustrated here. So what we have is a stellar core coming in. It was attracted to the atmosphere via the electrostatic interaction, but its gravitational potential is too low to be at this altitude. According to the Earth's gravitational potential levels, this level is a VO3 level. And you can see I have V surface here. This is VO1, VO2, and VO3, and gravitational potential increases in this direction. So as we move up from 1 to 2, it decreases. VO2 is less than VO1, and VO3 is even less than VO1, because it's less than VO2. So it's decreasing, as VO4 will have an even lesser gravitational potential than the level VO3. So this object has a level of VO4. So it belongs up here, but it's actually here. So what that causes is a force which repels all the material down here, all the magma. And that causes, because the object does not move, instead the surface moves. The surface moves downward by that height difference there. So the surface moves from there to there. And that means that now in this column, all the energy levels have changed. Now, instead of this being VO1, it's now VO2. And this one will be the one above that. And whilst the levels below ground have also changed. So this level here that was below ground, which is higher than V surface, has moved down to there. And so this can be understood in terms of gravitational potential, or it can be understood in terms of force acting on the particles. The gravitational force exerted by the stellar core is on each particle in the ground below it. There's no force on the material on the surface or any person that may be there or anything else. It's just on this material, it seems. So low energy Planet X objects cause the Earth's surface to move in order to accommodate its low gravitational potential, which would result in the density of all matter at the same distance from the center of the Earth inside the column to decrease. But the depth of the sinkhole is small with respect to the height of the atmosphere, so any difference in density and pressure will be extremely small. And on the right, we have the gravitational force acts on all particles making up the ground all the way to the magma layer. That's why I left the magma layer there. The force is strong enough to overcome the solid ground's resistance to breaking up. So it must be a very strong force. Since the whole column moves downward, the force exerted by the Planet X object extends to the magma layer, all the way down to here. And so the magma and the solid ground are met at the right energy level and density for the sinkhole creating Planet X objects to interact with. In other words, this object interacts with the magma below the surface and the solid ground above the magma, but it doesn't interact with material on the surface or above the surface. So the road surface, atmosphere, and people on the surface have too low an energy density to be affected by these particular objects. People and surface objects will simply fall into the sinkhole when it forms. Thus, the sinkhole producing Planet X objects do not interact with the atmosphere and cannot therefore create any real pressure changes in the atmosphere. But there are Planet X objects which come into the Earth's atmosphere and create severe low pressures, such as hurricane and tornado producing objects. This indicates that the objects are interacting with matter with a certain level of energy. But since they are severely depleted in gravitational energy and potential, they can only be matching electrical energy, as they retain a strong electric field and thus a strong electric potential. They would have lost some of the electric potential when they died, but still retain a percentage, whilst they would have lost nearly all their gravitational potential. Thus, instead of gravitational tuning, we have electric tuning. And you may look at Article 518 entitled Planet X and Gravitational Tuning for more details on that. Then, assuming all the objects retain the same percentage of their overall positive electric charge, the electric potential is then given by this equation, which is the electric potential energy per unit charge, and that's the electrostatic constant times the charge of the object divided by its radius. And so that will be K times rho. Rho is the charge density, and that would be times the volume, which is 4/3 pi r cubed, and then divided by the radius of the object. And then one of the r's cancels into r cubed, we get r squared. So that means that the electric potential is proportional to r squared. So the radius squared, or the object's radius squared. Thus, the larger the object, the larger its electric potential. So larger objects will have larger radii, and larger radii is proportional to potential. So larger radius gives a larger potential. So the larger the object, the larger will be its electric potential, and thus the larger objects will interact with magma deep inside the Earth, whilst the small objects will interact with atmosphere, because both gravitational potential and electric potential increases with depth. As we move closer to the center of the Earth, the gravitational potential and the electric potential both increase, and this is positive electric potential, and density also increases. So that means that the larger objects interact with matter that has a higher potential, and that matter is found deeper within the Earth. So a large stellar core that produces these sinkholes will be interacting, will have, say, an electric potential VE2, which is equivalent to matter, which is the crust and the top of the mantle, the magma that's found at the top there. And so it will interact with that matter, and these are the objects that then will produce the sinkholes, whilst smaller stellar cores will have a smaller electric potential, and that will be equivalent to matter that is in the atmosphere. So they only interact with matter in the atmosphere. And the gravitational potential severely depleted, so I made them both VG20. So these smaller objects only interact with the atmosphere, and these objects will interact with the magma. And the larger they are, the deeper will be the matter that they will interact with, until some of them will be able to interact with matter that's way down here, even the plasma in the core. And those will be the ones that would be able to create matter creation events from the core and thus induce volcanic eruptions. So Planet X system stellar cores with a certain electric potential interact with matter in the Earth with the same electric potential. Large stellar cores interact with magma and the solid ground, the smaller stellar cores with the atmosphere. Medium-sized stellar cores interact with liquid water. The object only seem capable of absorbing energy from absorbing electrons through their cloud envelopes or by absorbing matter in the fluid phase and thus from magma, liquid water, or atmosphere. The objects are absorbing material with compatible levels of electric potential, therefore. They cannot be matching gravitational potential as they are severely depleted in gravitational energy, but the electric fields and electric potential, though weaker than when they were living cores, remain strong. So people are not likely to be affected by the larger stellar cores unless they induce matter creation events which then produce earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. But that's an indirect effect. The smaller stellar cores which interact with the atmosphere and water on the surface of the Earth are, however, likely to affect the human body. As these objects move over a person on the surface, air pressure drops, which may cause the ears to pop. The density of the blood in a person's veins will drop as well, which may cause the blood to react. Blood with less density will carry less oxygen and nutrients, which may result in a feeling of dizziness and weakness. The heart may pump harder in an attempt to compensate, which may lead to problems in people with a weakened heart and in people with obstructions in their cardiovascular system. So in conclusion, Planet X system stellar cores of different sizes interact with matter of an electric potential which is comparable to their own electric potential, so that the largest objects interact with only magma inside the Earth and the smallest only with the atmosphere, whilst in between there will be those which interact with liquid water on the surface of the Earth. The smallest objects produce severe low pressures which can have adverse effects on the human body. And these are the references. This is Dr. Claudia Albers, Planet X physicist. Thank you for watching.